can tell the truth, you can bare your soul, and you can still feel trapped because honesty is not freedom. It is often just a more accurate prison. Quick thing before we go deeper. We are building toward 1,000 subscribers, and your subscription genuinely helps this channel reach people who actually want psychology that is not watered down. And if this hits something real for you, tap like too. That one signal tells the algorithm this is worth surfacing. Now let us name the experience. You finally say what you mean. You stop sugarcoating. You stop performing. Maybe you tell your partner what you actually resent. You tell your parents what you will not do anymore. You tell your friends what you have been hiding. And for a moment it feels clean, like air. Then, nothing opens. Sometimes it gets worse. You feel exposed instead of free. You feel raw, like you handed someone a knife and called it vulnerability. Or you feel strangely empty, like you did the brave thing and it did not change your internal weather at all. And you start thinking, what is wrong with me? I did the honesty thing. Why am I still tense? Why do I still feel like I am living inside invisible walls? Here is what is actually happening. You have been taught that truth is the opposite of fear. But psychologically, truth is not the opposite of fear. Avoidance is. Most people confuse honesty with escape because honesty can break one particular cage, the cage of deception. But the deeper cage is not deception. The deeper cage is dependence. Dependence on a specific reaction from other people to feel safe inside yourself. And that is why you can be honest and still feel owned. Let me show you what I mean with a pattern you have definitely lived. You say something honest, and the next thing you do is scan the room. Their face, their tone, the silence, the delay in their reply. Your nervous system does not care that you told the truth. It cares what the truth costs you. That scan is the real ruler of your freedom, not your words. In research terms, you can think of this as the difference between declarative truth and somatic safety. Declarative truth is what you say. Somatic safety is what your body predicts will happen to you after you say it. If your body predicts punishment, rejection, withdrawal, ridicule, or even just emotional chaos, then your honesty is not liberation. It is a threat exposure exercise you did without updating the underlying model. And that brings us to the first insight most people miss. You do not feel free when you say the true thing. You feel free when you can survive the consequences of the true thing without abandoning yourself. Notice the pattern here. The most honest people are often not the freest. They are sometimes the most reactive. They are the ones who have turned honesty into a weapon, or into a confession booth, or into a desperate bid to be seen. They are unloading truth to regulate anxiety, not to live in alignment. Think about the difference. If I say, I am just being honest, but what I mean is, I am overwhelmed by the tension of not saying it, so I need to discharge it onto you. That is not freedom. That is emotional offloading with a moral badge on it, and your brain rewards it for a second. You get a dopamine-like relief, similar to the relief people feel after checking a notification or scratching an itch, because you reduced internal conflict, but you did not increase internal capacity, so the relief fades. Then you need the next hit of honesty, another confrontation, another truth bomb, another finally I said it, and you call that growth, but it is often just compulsion with a better narrative. Now here is where it gets interesting. A lot of people are not trapped by dishonesty. They are trapped by a hidden contract they made with honesty. The contract goes like this. If I tell the truth clearly enough, other people will finally behave correctly, and then I can relax. That is not honesty, and that is control. And it makes perfect sense that it does not set you free. Because the moment your honesty is tied to controlling an outcome, You are not living in truth. You are negotiating for safety. This is why you can have a brutally honest conversation and leave feeling more imprisoned than before. Because your honesty just revealed how little control you have. You said, "Here is my boundary," and they shrugged. You said, "Here is how you hurt me," and they minimized it. You said, "Here is who I am," and they did not clap. And suddenly, honesty feels pointless. Not because truth is pointless, but because you were using truth as a lever to move another person, and the lever did not work. So you feel trapped. Second insight. Honesty often fails to create freedom because it does not change your attachment strategy. It just changes your script. If you grew up needing to monitor moods, earn approval, stay useful, stay small, stay impressive, then yourself became a social project. You learned implicitly that safety comes from managing other people's internal states. That is an attachment adaptation, not a personality quirk, an adaptation. So when you start being honest, you might stop lying, but you still keep the same adaptation. I need you to respond well for me to be okay. That is still management. That is still captivity. You are just managing with truth now. Let me make this concrete. There is a version of honesty that is basically a performance of authenticity. You say the vulnerable thing, but you say it in a way designed to produce a particular reaction. Reassurance, admiration, forgiveness, closeness, or even guilt. That can look incredibly mature on the surface. It can sound like therapy language, but internally it is still a bid. And bids are not bad. Humans need connection. The problem is when your nervous system treats a failed bid as danger. That is where the prison is built. Because then every honest moment becomes a gamble. Every truthful sentence is secretly asking, "Will you still keep me?" If you have ever felt your stomach drop after being honest, that is the mechanism. Your body is not responding to truth. It is responding to the risk of losing the attachment. Now, a micro hook you need to stay for, because this next part recontextualizes everything. Sometimes the reason honesty does not free you is that you are being honest about the wrong layer of yourself. You might be telling facts and skipping motives. You might be telling feelings and skipping needs. You might be telling needs and skipping the fear underneath them, and your system knows it. Here is the third insight, and it is uncomfortable. A lot of honesty is just self-reporting. Freedom requires self-confrontation. Self-reporting sounds like, "I feel anxious. I do not like this. I am mad." That is honest, yes. But it is often still shallow, because you can report your internal state without taking responsibility for the strategy you use to manage it. Self-confrontation sounds like, "I notice I punish people with distance when I feel unsafe," or "I notice I act superior when I feel stupid," or "I notice I call it honesty when I am actually trying to force clarity because uncertainty makes me feel out of control." That kind of honesty is rarer because it threatens your identity, in not just your relationships. And that brings us to a bigger systemic pattern. Honesty is socially rewarded as a virtue, but psychological freedom is not socially rewarded. Psychological freedom makes you harder to manipulate, harder to guilt, harder to recruit into other people's emotional economies. So society praises honesty because honesty keeps you in the game. Freedom lets you leave the game. Think about that for a second. A person who tells the truth but still needs approval is easy to keep in orbit. You can shame them, you can reward them, you can starve them of warmth. They will keep explaining themselves. They will keep being honest in increasingly precise ways, trying to earn a resolution. But a person who tells the truth and can tolerate the outcome is different. They do not chase closure. They do not argue for their reality. They do not bargain for understanding. They do not try to be seen by someone committed to misseeing them. They say the true thing, and if the relationship cannot hold it, they let the relationship reveal itself. That is freedom. And it is not romantic. It is not loud. It is not a viral quote. It is a nervous system skill. Now let me hit you with the mid-script flip, because if you are still watching, you can handle it. The real reason honesty does not make you feel free is that honesty is external truth. Freedom is internal permission. External truth is about accuracy. Internal permission is about sovereignty. You can tell the truth and still not grant yourself permission to want what you want, to leave what hurts you, to disappoint people, to be misunderstood, to be the villain in someone else's story, to not over-explain, to not fix their feelings, to not rescue the image they have of you. If you do not have internal permission, honesty becomes another way you ask for permission. You say the true thing, then you wait. You watch. You hope. You brace. That is not liberation. That is a courtroom. And you are still pleading your case. Here is what makes this truly interesting from a cognitive science angle. Your brain is a prediction machine. It does not prioritize truth. It prioritizes survival. If your history taught you that being fully yourself leads to social pain, your brain will treat authenticity as threat, even if your intellect calls it healthy. So you can intellectually choose honesty and still feel trapped because your threat system did not update. In exposure therapy terms, the update happens when you do the thing, and the feared catastrophe does not occur, or you tolerate it and remain intact. But most people do honesty in ways that prevent the update. They soften it, add disclaimers, pre-apologize, over-explain, justify, bring receipts, make it funny, make it small, or they explode, then repair too fast. All of those are safety behaviors. They reduce anxiety in the moment, but they teach your brain, I survived because I did the ritual, not I survived because I can handle reality. So honesty becomes paired with rituals, not resilience. And then you wonder why the prison stays. Let me show you the trap in one sentence. You are not afraid of lying. You are afraid of standing in your truth without a guarantee. No guarantee of being liked. No guarantee of being forgiven. No guarantee of being understood. No guarantee of being chosen. Now we can synthesize all of this into a framework you can actually use. I call it the 3 freedoms model. Freedom of speech, freedom of self, freedom of outcome. Most people only develop the first one. Freedom of speech is the ability to say what is true, to stop editing, to stop pretending. Freedom of self is the ability to stay emotionally present with what is true inside you, without instantly converting it into a strategy. Not using truth to control, punish, seduce, or earn. Just inhabiting it. Freedom of outcome is the ability to let reality respond however it responds, and not collapse, not retaliate, not beg, not perform, and not abandon yourself. If you only have freedom of speech, you can be honest and still feel trapped because you are still enslaved to outcome, and you are still estranged from self. So here is the practical part, and it is more surgical than just be authentic. When you are about to be honest, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what outcome am I secretly trying to buy with this truth? Do not moralize it, just notice it. Approval, relief, control, revenge, repair? If there is a price tag, you are not free yet. You are trading. Second, what am I not willing to feel if the outcome goes badly? Shame, grief, loneliness, regret, powerlessness? That feeling is the actual cage. That is the emotion you have been organizing your life around not feeling. Third, what would it look like to tell the truth with no attachment to being believed? This is the one that changes people, because a lot of your prison is not, "I cannot say it." It is, "I cannot stand that they might not validate it." Telling the truth with no attachment to being believed does not mean you tolerate gaslighting. It means you stop auditioning your reality in front of an uninterested judge. You state, you observe, you choose. And if you want a concrete technique, try this. Deliver the truth in one clean sentence, then do nothing. No defense. No extra paragraphs. No closing argument. Let the silence do its diagnostic work. If the relationship can hold your truth, it will respond with curiosity, care, or at least respect. If it cannot, it will demand you manage its discomfort, and you will feel the old urge to perform. That urge is the moment of practice. Not later. Right there. Breathe. Notice the urge and choose not to feed it. That is how you teach your nervous system. I can survive without controlling this. That is freedom. And one more thing, because this is the part people do not expect. Sometimes honesty does not make you feel free because you are telling the truth too late. Delayed honesty is not just late information. It is stored resentment. It is months of self-betrayal condensed into one conversation. The other person feels blindsided, you feel finally brave, and both of you are reacting to the backlog, not the content. So the nervous system learns honesty causes chaos, not because honesty is chaotic, but because you waited until your truth became a detonation. The fix is not more honesty. It is earlier honesty, smaller honesty, boring honesty. Truth as a lifestyle, not as an event. Now close the loop with the first thing I said. You can be honest and still feel trapped, because honesty is not freedom. It is exposure. Freedom is what happens when you can be exposed without becoming dependent, performative, or self-abandoning. So here is the question I want to leave you with. The next time you say, "I am just being honest," ask yourself, is this truth coming from strength, or is it coming from a hunger for a reaction? Because the moment you can tell the truth without needing it to rescue you, that is the moment the door has been unlocked. If this changed how you see honesty, I want to hear what it exposed for you in the comments. And if you want the next video to go deeper into why some people punish honesty and how to spot it early, tell me that too.